Recording in progress.
Yeah, good evening. So yes, today I just given you overview of native, how we can build a progressive web applications where React is used in building progressive web applications. We saw that. Now one more here we are going to see is about now how we can build and work with one simple approach I will show you. It's a lengthy process, few level by level points you will understand. Actually, you need to know how you configure React app using Webpack. That is one option. How to build a React app using Webpack. As actually it is nothing but what we are doing all these days. To create a React application, what we were doing, we are using NPX. And what is that NPX? NPX actually it uses scaffolding. NPX uses scaffolding. Scaffolding means it will automatically generate everything that is required for your project. But we will see how we can create everything step by step manually. This is not mandatory, but it is good at experience level to have this knowledge to understand how the infrastructure works. Right? It's major. Sometimes you can expect the questions related to this usually from experience levels. If you show vast experience, 4 or 5 years experience you are showing in technologies, then usually some questions are asked through this point, Webpack. Where the actual concept is already we saw how to use a React application in an existing app. We discussed how to create a web application, how to build, how to use React in an existing web application using CDN links by downloading the libraries. I showed you both using CDN and I showed you what libraries we have to download and how to use them also, right? But what is this Webpack is nothing but actually, you should know that React have a tool chain. React have a tool chain. Every technology will have a tool chain. So all complex technologies are having tool chain. Tool chain means what are all the tools required for creating, managing the applications. So what are all the tools required for creating and managing applications? React tool chain means now actually in the tool chain, usually you will come across with what we need for React application. Can you give some points what a React application needs? What are the libraries and tools basically required for React application? Can you name some? So we need libraries. Yep. Yeah, we need libraries. Like what libraries? So we need a React DOM library. We need a React library. We have React and React DOM, right? Core libraries. And what else? We need a Babel library. What is it, Babel? Babel is a compiler. We learned now. I already showed you how to install these manually. We learned how to create a project. I showed you how to create a general React application with these libraries, right? We successfully executed that also. In the first sessions already we finished it. I showed you how to add React in a HTML page using CDN links. I showed you how to download the plugins and install the libraries and create a React application by our own. But here we need a Webpack. Generally we use a Webpack. What is the concept of Webpack is nothing but Webpack configures your application. Webpack is nothing but it will configure your application. It configures your application and its resources. That means you can define the startup file. So you can define the main file, right? You can define the startup file, you can define the main, you can define the production environment, you can define the repositories. Repositories means from where the libraries to be taken, which library to be used, where to start with. All these things are defined in Webpack. So many things we define. That means when we created a React project, what you have saw? When we created a React project, you saw that index page is starting automatically, right? And you saw that index page is using index.js. It is using index.js. But you saw that there is nowhere index.js is linked to index.html. We are not linking anywhere, but how it is accessing, how it is using. So we haven't mentioned any path in the index.html, but how index.html is using index.js. So which compiler to use, from where to pick the scripts, which file should be used for production, which folder to be created for production, what should be the folder name for production, where the production files must be stored. All such things are defined in Webpack. So it is a very big concept. It's not like you remember everything. It's a very complex thing. I will give you the steps. So by using those, you can configure them, and you can take help of this file, the library, Webpack library, and you can add what you need for your project. What is advantage of creating like this is, it will allow to design our application with only what is necessary for our application. Previously, when you are creating an application, everything was generated without using them. You are not using all of them, but everything is configured for you. So we can reduce the burden on application. We can configure only what is needed for our application. We can set rules for our application. So at general level, very few you will get questions related to this concept, right? But experience level, if you are showing vast experience, you may expect some questions from this concept. And the questions are very simple. Nobody ask you to design. They will just ask you where to configure, how do we configure them. So you see, actually we need lot of libraries actually. Let's go here. So Webpack. So this is Webpack official website. This is webpackjs.org. This is official Webpack. Now, what is the concept of this Webpack? So the main concept of the Webpack is bundle. It is bundle your images, bundle your contents, bundle your components, bundle your styles. What is bundling? I hope already you learned in general HTML, CSS, JavaScript. In HTML, CSS, JavaScript, we have a concept called minification and bundling. Minification is compressing the files, minifying the files, minifying the code. You know minification. Learned na? I hope you know minification. If you have learned SAS less like concepts, you know bundling also. Bundling means if there are 4 CSS files, I have to use those 4 CSS files in a web page. Will you link all those 4 CSS files? In a web page, we need effects from all the 4 CSS files. Will you link all the 4 CSS files? If you are linking, that is wrong. Why? Because if you are linking so many external files, every file have to get a new request. If number of requests for a page increasing, page load time will increase. Then we use a technique called bundling. If you have learned SAS less like concept, you know bundling. Bundling means you can import the logic from all the files and keep in one file. Actually, if you have learned Bootstrap, you know this bundling concept. So Webpack actually, you can simply say here first point is it creates bundles. It creates bundles for scripts, for CSS, for resources, it will create. That means actually, so bundling is nothing but, suppose if you have learned Bootstrap, I hope you know, Bootstrap have alerts SCSS. Bootstrap have like, so model SCSS. So Bootstrap have like some card SCSS. These are all files. For every file, a CSS file is generated. For every file, a CSS file is generated actually. But very important, in your project, what you do is you use a bootstrap.scss. In this bootstrap SCSS, we import all these files. What we import alert, we import model, and we import card. Then we compile this. Then what happens? Bootstrap.css will come. In this, all these 3 files code will be there. That is bundling actually. This mechanism is bundling. If you are already aware of SCSS SAS like concepts, this is common. This we generally do. We call this as bundling. This is bundling. So Webpack is a bundler. It bundles all the contents and keep at one place so that from one file you can manage all. That means you can manage your startup page, you can manage your scripts, you can manage your styles, you can manage your other resources. That is what actually bundling is. Why it is called as a bundler? Because from one file you can manage everything. That is the concept. Actually, this is a general concept. Suppose I will show you. Roughly, I will give you a project here to make you understand. Actually, I will just give bundle. Okay, you see here, I am adding some files like underscore variables dot scss actually. So, and another one is underscore mixins dot scss. Like this, we have 2 files. Variables will have some variable declaration. Suppose we have like border. So border is $border. So we have border like 2 pixel solid red color like this options. I will just give 2 pixel so solid so red color like this. So here we have some variables padding. So 10 pixels. These are variables actually. We have function. So we have a mixin. Mixins are actually functions. Function name is setFX. Now what we do here is we are applying container. Container contains border. But this border should get the borders from variable. We have to import. So we have to use import. So import, we have to import underscore, that is actually variables. If I import that variables file, I can use the variables in that. We have a variable called border. I can use it here. We can have some padding. That means we are adding some padding. Padding can use a variable called padding. But these are coming from this file. Now what we do finally, we will create one file called styles fx.scss. In this what we do is we import everything. That means here we import variables. So here we import mixins like this, mixins. After importing them, we just access. So we include the mixin is setFX. We have setFX, we call it. Now what happens when I run this file? All the code present in this will be extracted and it is generated into a CSS file. So only one file we will use in our project, but it contains the information coming from multiple files. Now you see, I will compile this. So Sass, that is effect.scss, it is creating a CSS file. In the CSS file, all the code will be there. In the CSS file, all the code will be there. Right, effects, everything will be applied there. But actually variables in separate file, functions are in separate file. We are accessing and using in one location. This is how actually your projects are built with a lot of CSS and repository. For example, you observe in node modules, suppose we have Bootstrap. I will show you Bootstrap. Observe carefully. Bootstrap is using SCSS. When you open it, you will see for every file, you see accordion, alerts, badge, separate file is there. You are not including all these files. What you are doing, you are including only one file called Bootstrap, which imports everyone. Understood? This is bundling. This is bundling. When a CSS file is converted for this, it will extract all the code of these files and put it in one file. This is how Webpack works actually. So this is how the concept of Webpack works. So what is the concept of Webpack is bundling. It creates a one bundle from where you can define everything, like which one to start, which one to use images, which one to use for scripts, which one to use for styles. So which files to be used for production, which files to ignore in production, all these things will come to picture. That is what actually the concept of Webpack. So if anybody asks what is a Webpack and why we need this, simple technical answer is Webpack is used for creating bundles. It is used for creating bundles. It is used for bundling. What bundles? Script bundles, style bundles, everything. And what is the purpose of this bundling? You can set the configuration of entire repository at one location. From here, you can provide to application so that everywhere you don't need to call it. Everywhere you don't need to refer. You don't need to tell in index HTML which JavaScript to use. You can mention that in this file. That is what actually Webpack. Webpack contains lot of details. You see, it contains lot of details. So you have to learn how to use this Webpack in React. Remember, it is not just in React. It is used in almost all kind of environments. All kind of environments will use these Webpacks. All technologies, lot of platforms are using this Webpack. Remember, this is not only for React. It is not only for React. It is used for various technologies. Mostly JavaScript based all technologies will use this Webpack. Now let's see how to design. That means, see, these all libraries we cannot remember. We have to come to the website. We have to install those libraries. Lengthy libraries will be there. I will give a list, step-by-step process. You just follow that. You can do it, right? Let's see. So what we will do here, first step, we need to create a React project. Okay. Let's do one thing now. I will open my command prompt. In that, I will go to some E drive, D drive, any location. First, we need a folder for project. Already we know that, right? We will create a folder. I already showed you this without Webpack. If you remembered, I told you npm init, creating public folder, src folder. We finished this. Only additionally, we are learning how to configure with Webpack. Because without Webpack, what we have done, we done that by linking index file into index.html. But you can configure everything in the Webpack. And we don't need a live server. Without live server, we can run command npm run. Automatically it will start. Right? This is the process. So what we will do is, we will create a folder. You can create directly in your physical drive, or from command line if you want to create a folder, mkdir, that is the command. Mkdir is make directory. That is a command actually. Or you can do one thing, simply go to your computer E drive location. Suppose any location, I am taking to E drive. I am creating a new folder. And in this folder, I am giving React Webpack app, right? Just I am giving React Webpack app. So that is empty folder. Now open that here, cd React Webpack app. We changed into it. Now this is an empty application. Actually, we have to run. We can directly use this in our project. You see now, we can directly use in our Visual Studio. Open that. I just showed in command prompt to make you see it clearly. You can directly use from terminal. Okay. First, open the folder. In the folder, we have E drive. In the E drive, React. We have React Webpack app. Okay. Currently, it is empty. You remembered, I already told you how to initialize it as a web application. We have to run one command. Na? What is that command? Yeah, here just I am giving you here so that you can clearly see it. npm init y. What it will do? It will generate package.json. Already we know that. Okay, it's done. Okay, we created that package.json. And as per the project standards, two files are required. Two folder. One is public folder. Another one is src folder. We created these two folders. Usually in public folder, you will have an index.html, right? In src folder, you usually have an dynamic files, index.js. In index.html, we will put a HTML page. We will just put a HTML page. Don't worry about other things. Just we keep as index. And here we will keep a container, and we will keep the container. Yeah, we'll keep the container ID as root. Already we done this, but without Webpack we have done. Now we are doing with Webpack. This is done. Now we need lot of things to do. lot of configurations, very lengthy process. We have to install Webpack libraries, everything we have to do. So let's see step by step. I copied a notes for you. I will give you the notes one by one level. So here you have to do. Okay. Up to this, it is ready. Up to this, it is ready. So we have a package JSON file created. This is the package JSON file created. And we have index.js and we have index.html. Now we need to install Webpack for our project. We have to install Webpack for our project so that we can do bundling, and we need to create Webpack configuration file. So for that, you need to run this command. So I will give the command here. So to create Webpack, you have to install this file. This command we have to install. That notes I will give here. We have to install this command. We need to set up and install this one. So we have to run the command npm install webpack CLI and save for development environment. Dev indicates development environment. You can get this from official Webpack resources link, but I will upload one document. In that step by step, all the links are there. You can go through. First, we have to install this file. Okay. So we are downloading and installing this Webpack for our project. We have to first install Webpack for our project. Remember, everything we are doing here for our project. This is for our project. Okay. So once you installed Webpack for the project, next step, we have to create a file. Go to the project location. You see in package JSON, already main is configured as what? Index.js. Okay, that is, and Webpack, you have the version. We have Webpack and Webpack CLI. Now we need to create a Webpack configuration file. That is the file where we have to write all the settings. All the settings we have to write in that file. So we have to create a new file here. So in the root folder, be careful. If you misplace the location of file, it cannot work, right? You have to make sure that your index is in public. So HTML, your source is in index, JS is in src, and you have to create a new file in the root level. We have to create webpack.config.js. So we have config.js, webpack.config.js. We have to create the file webpack.config.js. Now in this file, we have to write the settings. We have to write all the settings for Webpack configuration. What are the settings we have to write here? Finally, what are all the settings to be inside this Webpack config? I will tell you. Actually, you have to go to that official website. We have Webpack official website. Na? Webpack. This is the official Webpack. In this website, you can go to the documentation, and you can here you can see what are the rules, what are the plugins required for this. That means you need to know what are the rules, what are the plugins we have to configure. Already they will give you what need to be defined. That means we have to generally, this is common for everyone. This is common for everyone, but for React, we have to use a different file location, right? Actually, you see here, this is path. Path is nothing but it is a, I think you know Node.js. Node.js have a path module. That path module is used to get the path of any file. You can get the path of any file by using this path module, right? Path means file name, file location, file directory, file extension, everything you can access by using this path. so that you can tell from where the files need to be taken. You can tell which extension files must be taken. All that information is defined by using this, right? By using this. So what you have to do is you have to define this in the webconfig.js file. We added this file. We added webpack config.js file. In this, we need to do some modification. You see, we need to add this code. Already this is given, right? Already this is given in their official source. We have to add this into the webpack. That means we need to add this into the webpack. Already they given in their official website. We have to import this. Here different. So module exports, you see entry. Entry means from where to start. From where to start, it should start from which file? It should start from index.js. So if anybody asks you, like you are not mentioning anywhere index.js in HTML page, index HTML, how it is starting? Webpack is doing it. Understood? So Webpack is going to map everything to this index. You can I change this file? You can change this file. You can give any another file. It's not mandatory that it should be an index.js. You can set up any file as startup. You have login.js, you can make it startup. But you have to make sure that that is rendering the DOM, virtual DOM correctly. That is the first thing you need to know. So here, this is ready. And what is this output? Output is nothing but when you build this project, when you build the project, if you have seen deployment, I told you, when we deployed, all our logic build is bundled into this main.js. It created a file called main.js. Into that, all the logic is kept. That means you have a lot of components now. All the components related information, so bundled into one file. What is that file? Main.js file. Everything is bundled. If you have seen the build file that we build folder, there you will not see all our component files. Have you observed? You have learned deployment now. You have seen, you done the deployment. In the build folder, you will not see all the component files. You will see only one file, main. That means what Webpack will do, it will bundle everything and it will keep in main.js. And which folder it will collect? dir name. Dir name is nothing but root directory. Root directory is React Webpack app. That is the root directory. In that, it will create a folder called build. This is actually path.resolve is a Node.js command. It is a Node.js command used to configure the path for files server side. Server side. That means server means here it is not the real server side. This is actually your local servers. Local server, right? You are configuring that. Okay. It's not done. So much is there. Here we have to add more things into this, right? This is just only first level. Okay. After that, next step, what we have to do is, we don't need this actually. We have to install another plugin. This is the plugin required for HTML. That means you need another plugin to install. This is HTML Webpack plugin. This is not required for every technology. This is required for only the technologies that use HTML as the front end startup, right? Because Webpack is used for server side also. In that case, we have to configure this plugin only when your technology is using front end HTML. We need a special plugin for that. Webpack HTML plugin will link your bundle files to the HTML page with the HTML DOM. Without this, HTML DOM will not work. Save is saving that in package.json. Dev is for development mode. So that means development mode, production mode, development mode. You have to add every library for development mode. I already showed you now. In the introduction, we saw that two libraries are given, development library, production library. production library. We have taken the production library or development library depending on requirement, right? Now here we have to install this also. We have to install HTML Webpack plugin for our project. After installing, we need to do some changes now. This plugin must be used by our project. This HTML plugin must be used by our project. So what we have to do, in the Webpack config file, we have to import this plugin first. In the Webpack here, we have to import that plugin. Understood? To import any module in Node.js, we use this require. Require, we have to import. After importing, we have to configure that in plugins. We have to configure that in plugins. This must be added. This must be added into your existing module exports. Here we have to add plugins. Understood? Here we have to add plugins. That means you see output is fine. Now what this plugin, which plugin we are using? HTML plugin. What this plugin will do? Very special. This is very important. This plugin is going to render index.html as startup. Understood? This plugin is going to render index.html. From which location? Public. You have to mention the folder name and the file. That means where it is present. Now, if anybody asks, is it mandatory to keep index.html in public folder? Not necessary. You can create any another folder with any another name and you can configure that in this plugin. That means who is responsible for making your index.html as startup? That is done by HTML plugin, HTML Webpack plugin. So you have two things now. One is HTML plugin will mention which page to start with, index.html. In that page, which file to use for script. That is mentioned as entry point. Na? Entry. That means your application will start with index and this index will use which file? Index.js. That is important. This is the link actually. That means if anybody asks how index is using this, because of this bundle. Because of this bundle. It is not done. We have some more work here. What else? We need to tell what should be the files that it has to use for components. Is it TS file? Is it JS file? Is it JSX file? We have to tell that. We have to set certain rules. And one more important, this is okay up to now. Still React is not ready. We have to install React library. We have to install Babel library. We have to configure them also. We have to configure them also. This is up to now clear, right? We have mentioned which file to start, which file to take up in the startup, entry point. Okay. Okay. Next step. Once you define this, next step, what you have to do is we have to add another one. We have to add Webpack development server. Why we need this Webpack development server? We need to install one more Webpack development server. What is the purpose of this server? It is going to, remember, server. Webpack server. Server means it is going to host your application. That means where our application have to run. Who will decide? Webpack have a server. We have to install a Webpack development server. In that server, we can run our application. At which port number it should run, what should be the server location, all these details to be mentioned. That means we have to install Webpack development server. What is the purpose of Webpack development server? It is going to host your application and run your application. Your application, React application will be started by this server. It will be hosted in this server. And once the server is installed, now what we have to do is, after installing the server, we have to configure the server also. In Webpack, we have to configure the server. So go to Webpack again. In the Webpack, we need to add about server. That means development server. It is using a static object. It is accessing which folder to use? Build. Build is nothing but it is the folder used for production. That means your application is going live. Which port number? You have to use the port number. That means it will start a server locally and it will run the application in this port number. That is the reason you are seeing 3000 as port number. That is configured in this. So if anybody asks like React application is running on 3000 port number, can I change this? Yes, you can change this. In Webpack, you have to change this in the development server. In the development server, you have to tell which port number to use. So it's not mandatory to use only this port number because some port numbers may be already in use. So already some applications may be running. You can use a different port number, right? This is currently 3000 port number as per tradition. If you want, you can change the port number. So server also ready. So after server is ready, next step, we have to mention the scripts in package.json file. We have to mention the scripts in package.json file. That means go to package.json. In the package.json file, we have to go to the scripts location. In this scripts location, that means here we have to tell, here we need to configure. What to configure? We need to define build and start. Two options are there, build and start. Build is nothing but build indicates that it will build your application. Webpack will build your application for which mode? Production mode. Start indicates that it will start your server development server. In that development server, it will run your application. That means one we need for running the application locally. Another we need to run the application on cloud or somewhere in the production server. So we need to configure that in the scripts. Script require two configurations. One, development, which location? Production, which location? What is development location? Webpack server means it is using a local Webpack server. And where is the production? It is using Webpack production. It is in the build, right? So this is the configuration for the scripts you have to define. Now we need a compiler. We have to use a compiler. We have to install compiler. If you remembered in the beginning, I showed you we can install Babel standalone. Am I right? But here we need to install the Babel compiler. So we need Babel core compiler. We need Babel preset environment, Babel loader. All these we have to install. You will get this from official Babel website. What is to be installed for a Webpack? It will give you the complete information. Already in the beginning, we installed two. One is Babel core, another one is Babel standalone compilers. Those two were enough in the beginning we saw. Now we need to download and install all these Babel preset environment. Babel, why we need a Babel? Babel is the compiler. For React application, the Babel compiler is compulsory. We need a compiler. Okay. Now you have to configure this compiler. You will get the Babel related configuration settings in Babel official website. That means how to configure Babel, what settings to configure, what properties it contains, all those things. But in our React application, we need only few files. Now you have to define this. We have to add this into the project now. We have to add this. This we have to use. You have to add a module. We have to add the module into this copy. Let's add the module. That means in the Webpack here, go to Webpack. Here we need to add a module. This module is nothing but it defines the rules now. Rules is nothing but which extension files Babel should use. That means this module indicates it is using which compiler? Babel loader. Babel loader will load the Babel compiler. And Babel compiler will use which files? It will use JS files. What is the file extension? You know this symbol, na? Regular expression, right? Regular expression indicates that the extension starts with .js. You can put .js, you can put .jsx, you can put .ts, you can put tsx. Understood? according to what extensions you want to configure and what you want to use for your project, you can do. It depends on your requirement, you have to configure. Here I am using this. This indicates ends with, this is a regular expression. Am I right? Regular expression starts with dot and extension should be JS. And exclude node modules. That means don't compile the JS files present in node modules. It will take time. Why? Because Babel have to compile only the JS files that are present in your SRC, not present in node modules, because node modules also have all JavaScript files, belongs to different libraries. If they also started compiling, it will take so much time. So what we have to do, exclude the compiling of node modules, and you compile only the JS files that you have to mention. Now, another important, after you configure this, one more, we need to add one more here. What we have to add is, we need to resolve the extensions. What are the extensions? That means all the files, resolve extension, all files that have extension JS. So that means it will compile all the files that have extension JS, but not all files. It is only the files that are present in SRC. Understood? It is present in SRC. It will exclude everything present in node modules, right? These are the settings generally you will get in your Babel compilers, right? But still not finish. We have to use Babel settings also. That means we have to create a file Babel RC. In that, we have to set up the Babel environment. That means what we have to do, we have to create another file in the root module. What is it? Babel rc.js. So Babel RC, right? So .babel rc. We need to create a file .babel rc. It is a reserved file actually, right? It is a file. And in this file, we need to configure the presets. That means it is going to use the Babel preset environment. Preset environment is nothing but the core library and the standalone library that you have downloaded. That means which Babel compiling library it have to use, you have to configure in Babel file. Babel configuration file is babel.babel rc. That is the Babel configuration. We have Webpack configuration, Babel configuration. Actually, you can get that information from babeljs.io. I showed you this already. This is the official website of Babel. In any technology, if you are using Babel, the config files, what settings must be in the config file, how to create the config file, what options you can have in the config file, it will display everything there, right? So how should be the Babel extension? What are the options to be mentioned? All these will be there. It depends on your technology where you are using Babel. Everywhere it is not same use. Here we need only this preset environment. Okay, it's ready. So Webpack is ready. Configuration is ready. You mentioned which file to start with. You mentioned where to start with. And you mentioned where to pick the scripts from. And one more point is, we need React now. We need React library now to build React components. So how to install React library? Already we know. How to add the React library? We have to install these two things. What are those two things? One is React DOM. This is the library to install. One more, we need to install Babel for React. We have to install Babel for React. We have to install Babel for React. So because Babel is not currently linked for React, we have to link the Babel for React. Okay. Now we need to go to Babel config, and here we need to set these options. That means we need to add this additional functionality here. Already in the presets we configured, and here we need to add. So in the presets we need to add here some more options. Here we need to configure. This we have to do. Right, we need to define this. This is nothing but, so Babel preset React, it will run automatic. Runtime is automatic. That means automatically the Babel environment will be loaded whenever it recognizes the JS files for the React. Okay. Now we need to create your component and add the component. That is the general option here. Now already I added the rules. No need to change the rules. Here the rule is already added. Leave it. Right. Now one more option. Now you create your component and load it in index. You can create your component and load in index. That means you can create your component and define. That means how do we create the component? Let's go to src. We will add a new file. What is the component? Suppose I given the component name as some app.js, right? And what we will do here, we will create an export default. What is it? Function app component. Am I right? This is app component. So what we have to do? So it should return some presentation. Am I right? What is the presentation? So hello React JS. So Webpack app, like this I define. Just this is the option. Now in index we have to import everything. Already in the beginning itself I showed you index page. We have to import React. We have to import and we have to use create root, right? I told you that old method and new method in React 18 how to do, in React old version how to do. In React already I given them in the first example itself. In old version how to render to root, in new version how to render to root. In new version they have introduced create root. By using create root you have to create a root and you have to render into the root. So we need to do this in the index file, right? We have to do that in the index file. That means we go here and we need to import this. So this is import and we have to import this module. What is it? React from React, create root from React DOM client, and we have to import one more. What is it? Another one is app. App is there directly. App from app. And we need to make this component in the startup. App in the startup, right? So we are accessing the root from index and into the container create root. Create root will create a virtual DOM, and into that we are rendering this. Already I told you old method and new method. Difference I told you in the beginning itself, right? In 17 how it works, in 18 how it works, both. I showed you that it is backward compatible also. This create root already we learned right in the beginning. So we are rendering and defining it. It's done. So we configured everything. It is done. Now you need to start your project. So you have to start your project. You have to run the command. So that means you need to start the project by using the command. And what is the command you have to use is to run the command. We have to use npx. So you have npm run start command is there, right? So here we are using npm run start. That is the command. You can see it is starting. It is compiling everything and it is building and configuring, and it is compiled successfully. Once it is compiled successfully, see the port number. It is working on this port number, right? So let's open that here and we will access local host. What is that? 3000. It should get that. Your React application is working. And now you can see in the index file, you can see in the index.html file, there is no link for index.js. Am I right? There is no link for index.js. It is picking up all the information and compiling and configuring this. This is how actually your React application is built. But remember, this is not required for beginners, right? Learners. So this is for the people who are experienced and they are working in architecting the application, right? So having a knowledge of what, where are configured is important. Here so many other rules will be there. So many other rules will be there that you have to learn through that Webpack and Babel, because it will change according to your environment, it will change. Some settings you need to additionally configure. So if you are designing for React Native, some more changes you have to do in this. So if you are using for TypeScript, again, you have to add some more settings. I will upload a document for TypeScript also. You go through it. You can try it now. Just only few configuration changes you have to do, because TypeScript requires again TS config file. TS config file will generate the TypeScript into JavaScript and it will use. Everything will be similar, just few changes will be there. These are the basic things that you have to understand from scratch. I told you already this type of concept earlier, but without Webpack, right? In the beginning itself, I given all examples. How to use React in an existing project within just one page, how React works, how to install without installing CDN, how to install and use with CDN. Another point is we have learned how to use React without Webpack and with Webpack now. Without Webpack is you have to install Babel standalone, you have to install React DOM and React libraries, and you have to configure. With Babel, so many extra configurations. Without Babel, what we have to do, we have to link our index file to HTML. And we have to set up all the resources. But here, everything is bundled in one file. What is that? Webpack. Right? These configurations are very important to understand. How you configure your Webpack. In that, what are the settings to be configured? We need two options, two modules here. One is path, another one is HTML plugin. So the path defines from where to pick up your resources, where to store them. And HTML plugin is used to configure your startup page. The resource for startup page is configured in the entry point, index.js. And where to run your project, it is decided by development server. Right? Development server. Suppose you see here, I will Control C, terminate, stop, close. Suppose you are changing this port number. You are changing the port number 8080. And I am compiling this one more time. NPM run start. It is compiling and it is running this on that particular port number. Now this time, and 3000 I request here. On 3000, the application is no longer running. You see, it cannot reach. Because this time we changed the port number. What is it? 8080 is the port number. That you need to configure where to run your option. Already server side, I already showed you. We created a API in a node. There we have mentioned a port number. That is server app. This is client. Right? How do we configure the Webpacks? How do we define them? How do we set up? And which compiler to use? What extension files to use? All these you need to define in Webpack. In compiler, you have to mention how do we set up the runtime environment for compiler. These are already presets given in the Babel file, Babel config files. You can copy and put that code here, depending on your libraries. And index, you have to import. And in the new versions, you know already how to create a root and how do we render into that. Right? Previously, how do we do? Directly render into the root elements. Right? React DOM.render method, if you remembered. Old versions use React DOM.render method. Here we use create root. This is the complete approach of end-to-end building of a React application. From scratch level. That means here every file we created. This node modules is generated according to packages you are installing. This public we created, index we created, SRC, these all we created. Even package JSON also we created by using npm init. We need to configure the files and define the files. Now you can build up your application. You are using routing, add routing library, Axios library. All others are common now. You need the Babel only in this location to configure, right? This is one important approach you need to understand. I hope you are clear. I will upload that note. complete notes step by step. You can go through it and you can build that option, right? So with this, we complete this entire concept. And one more is actually some people are asking for testing and all, right? Those are out of context because you have to learn testing frameworks first in order to use testing. It's a separate approach. But I will do one thing. Today we finish all the concept. We finish all the concept. Two topics I will take here because now React 18 new version again released. A minor release happened with few changes happened. What I will do is today we will end our session. The coming Saturday, right? So we will take 1 week gap. You practice all of them, right? Whatever you have seen up to now. The coming Saturday, we will have a backup session. In that session, I will explain what very newly added into 18, React 18, and we will see some testing introduction. For the people who wants testing, like how testing is done, like just overview I will give about how testing is done. So with that, you will get a complete idea on what is happening in the current and along with testing options also. Okay, na? So with this, we complete all of these topics. Whatever you have learned, I hope you are clear in this. And what I will do is in the coming Saturday, next Saturday, I will have a backup session. In that backup session, I will clarify if you have any additional doubts, right? I will give you this week time. You practice everything what you learned, right? And in the backup, I will announce in the classroom. I will give a new Zoom link to you. You log in into that. We will have doubt sessions. Okay, na? So we will see what new repositories are adding. Any doubts are there related to that. We will continue in this. Okay, na? I hope you are clear in all the topics you learned, right? So let's take some time practice. Then again, the Saturday session, we will have some discussion on any still doubts are there for you. We can get a clarity on that. Okay, na? And some interview questions and some sample projects I will upload. You try them. Mostly by Monday I will upload, right? You can try them. Okay. So some interview questions and sample projects I will upload. You can try those. Hope everybody clear. Right. And let's see if you have any doubts. Saturday we will do it. Okay, na? Right. So then we can terminate our session. You have any doubts, you can post into classroom. In the classroom, I will enable all the comments and all. So I will post a Telegram link. So we will keep in touch in that Telegram link. I will keep updates into that. Okay. Right. We will continue. Right. Okay then. Thank you.